Hey guys, so this week we're going to be talking about travel organization, and the item we're going to be taking a look at is the TopEva Hanging Closet Organizer. And so if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that I always love experimenting with new ways to pack all my stuff when I go on trips, just to try to make things as efficient as possible. And so I've tried out tons of different ways to pack. I've tried rolling my clothes. As I mentioned, I really like to use packing cubes. Typically the items that you'll see me use a lot are these double-sided packing cubes from Travelmore, but there's a lot of different brands out there. I've also experimented with using kind of these flat shirt organizers that have that folding board inside of them to help keep kind of dress shirts a little bit less wrinkled. And this has worked pretty well in the past as well. But I had always been intrigued by the concept of some of these hanging organizers, this idea that you can kind of get to your destination and pull everything up in one fell swoop and just unpack and repack in less than a few seconds. And so a while back I had actually seen this concept implemented as part of a bag itself. I don't remember the exact brand of the company, but there was a few bags that came out. There was like a duffel bag and a carry-on bag that had this sort of system already integrated into the bag. And although I thought it was cool, I'm pretty picky with the type of bag that I travel with, so I didn't want to have to use their bags in order to be able to try this out. So I was really excited when I found out that you could actually purchase the hanging organizer separately from the bag, and that I would be able to kind of try it out with a lot of the travel backpacks that I typically like traveling with. And so when I first saw this concept, it looked really convenient and easy to use. I did have some reservations about how it would compare to just traditional packing cubes, and whether it would actually be easier or more cumbersome to use. But overall, I've definitely enjoyed testing this system out. I think it has a lot of benefits, and I really like kind of the creativity that went into putting something like this together. I'm not sure if this is something that I'll travel with regularly over the packing cubes that I typically use, but overall, I really enjoyed the efficiency that it offers, especially if you're traveling with a larger bag. And I'm just really excited to kind of share this with you guys, show what I have in here, and just talk a little bit about how it compares to some of the other organizers we've used in the past. So let's just go ahead and dive in and take a closer look at the Deluxe Hanging Organizer by TopEva. So just starting out with the overall aesthetic and materials of the organizer, the TopEva Hanging Organizer feels pretty sturdy. It's made out of kind of this polyester material that's wrapped around these kind of metal loops that help give the organizer its shape. On the outside edges of the organizer, there's kind of this mesh nylon material that feels pretty durable. Overall, it's nice to see that the bag feels like it'll be able to hold a fair amount of weight well, as it is a hanging organizer. And so to that end, the organizer has two metal hooks, which is what you use to actually hang it up, which are attached to a pretty durable feeling kind of nylon strap as well, which is also adjustable, so you can adjust it depending on what sorts of items you have and how high you want it to be. And the hooks themselves are nice and durable. I like that they're pretty wide, which means that you can hang this on a variety of tubes in a closet or a bathroom. When you're actually packing the bag down, it's nice that you can actually attach the hooks to each other to help keep everything from flopping around. And overall, I think it's a fairly good build quality. It doesn't feel much different than the materials you might find in a packing cube, with the exception of kind of the metal that makes up the different levels of the organizer. And so speaking of the metal, this does add a little bit of weight to your bag. It's not super heavy, but it is heavier than what you would see with a really flimsy packing cube, kind of like this one that I typically use when I travel. So this is really nice in that it takes up very little space and it doesn't have a lot of weight. But I do like the rigid kind of structure that the metal gives the organizer to help kind of keep your clothes nice and packed down. And so another thing to note is this is actually larger lengthwise than the typical packing cube that I'll use when I travel with one bag. And so in a way, that's kind of nice that that's longer, because it allows me to pack my clothes wider, which makes them a little bit flatter and allows me to fit just a little bit more. One little issue that I was running into is that this organizer is right at the edge of what would fit in most of the travel backpacks that I typically use. So I tried fitting this into the Air Travel Pack, the Tortuga Outbreaker 35 liter, and the GoRuck GR2. And it managed to fit in all those, but it was a pretty tight fit, especially in the Air Travel Pack and the GoRuck GR2. It just barely was able to squeeze in there. And honestly, I don't think it'd be very convenient to get this in and out of the bag. So that's just something to note. If you're wanting to use this, it will work better with a larger backpack. And so one of the biggest cons of an item like this that I'll go ahead and call out right away is the fact that it only really works well if you're actually going to be hanging it. So if you're not somewhere that has a good closet or that has a lot of space for you to hang it, it's going to be really inconvenient to use or to even pack. So as you can see, when I'm holding it up, it's very easy to see everything. You can see how it'd be really convenient to access the different items that you want to grab as it's hanging. However, the second I let it go, you can see it just kind of collapses into itself, which is really convenient for when you're actually taking it in and out of your bag. But the rest of the time, this can be a little bit annoying, especially when I was trying to pack it. I would have to lift up the bottom level, put stuff in, and then let it rest and then do the same for the middle level. So that can be a little bit annoying. So if you are going to use this to pack, you definitely want to hang it up so that you can actually put the things in. But if you happen to go to a hotel or something that doesn't have a good place to hang it and you just put it on your dresser or something, as you can see, the second you put it down, it's just going to plop down. It's going to be a little bit inconvenient to use. And so, I don't think there's a nice compromise there. I mean, this is meant to be a hanging organizer and the system is kind of designed that way. But it's just something to note. If you don't think you're going to be able to hang it wherever you're traveling, this probably won't be the most convenient way to travel. Another interesting thing to note is that, as you can see here on the top level, there's a lot of leftover space. So I currently just have, these shoes in the stop kit here. But this is pretty tall. But you'll notice that when I put the organizer down, those walls kind of fall all the way down. So what this means is that if you have a lot of stuff here and actually have, items that are stacked up to the top of that level, then they'll be a little bit exposed here. They might move around. And so that's kind of the other complaint that I have about this item, is that it doesn't have any way to kind of lock it down. So I wish it had a little strap that went all the way around, or just some sort of zipper that would help keep everything in its place a little bit better. So right now it's really the weight of the items on the top levels that are kind of helping to keep everything all together. But as you can see, the top level is very loose. And if I were to put this on my bag and actually walk around, there's a good chance that things would shift around. And so I do wish that there was a strap included of some sort to kind of help prevent that just a little bit. And so now that we have some of the bigger cons out of the way, we can talk about what it was actually like to use this. And I have to say, I was pretty impressed with just how convenient it is to actually pack this up, put it into your bag, and then pull it out when you reach your destination. It works really well. So for the purposes of the testing that I did, I traveled with the Tortuga Outbreaker 35 liter. And it worked really nicely to be able to just put my bag down, lift this up, and hang it in my closet. It works super well, especially if I was staying in a particular room for a longer period of time. It's kind of nice to be able to just hang this up in your room, and it feels a little bit more homey. And it saves you the trouble of actually having to take things out and put them in drawers and things like that. And it's just really convenient, as you go about your day-to-day when you're staying in a room, to be able to have this hanging up and just be able to easily go in, see all the different things that you have packed in one convenient view, and then just grab the pants and shirt that you want to wear for a particular day. So I was really impressed with just how well the system works. It collapses and expands really easily. If you're using the right size bag, it's almost no effort to put this in and out of your bag, which is really nice to see. And overall, I think it's just a really convenient alternative to some of the annoyances that you have to deal with if you're traveling with packing cubes sometimes. And so what I went ahead and did for the purposes of this video is I took everything that I typically pack in my other packing cubes that you've seen in all my other videos and just tried to fit it all in here. And I have to say, it all fit very well, very conveniently. So, just going through what I have on the top level, as I mentioned earlier, is just my Toms and a DOP kit. And then this middle level here, what I did is I took everything that's in the smaller packing cube that I typically use, my t-shirts, my socks, my underwear, and I packed it into this middle level. And so the items that I have here will typically get me through a week or two of travel pretty easily. So just to give you a guideline for how many clothes I was able to fit on this organizer to be able to travel for a long period of time. And then on the bottom level, I have, some chinos, I have a few pairs of shorts, I have a few pairs of jeans, and then I also have some of my nicer button-down dress shirts. And so as you can see, I was able to fit quite a lot, the same as I typically do in all my other videos. And then if you're not using the organizer itself, it packs down really flat once it's empty. As you can see, it doesn't take up a lot of space. You can store it when you're not traveling. And overall, I was really impressed with just the form factor and how well the system itself seemed to work for what its intended use was. And so as you can probably see by the items that I have here, I'm not the most minimal of packers. So if you are a more minimal packer, you don't carry as much stuff, I think this sort of organizer might work even better for you. I think it'd be even more convenient to use. And to that end, I am trying to kind of reevaluate the amount of clothes that I typically travel with. I'm trying to get a little bit more creative and just learn a little bit about the different types of materials that are available. The shirt that I'm currently wearing is actually the first merino wool t-shirt that I've ever had a chance to try out. This is from a company called Oliver's. And I'll actually be doing a review for this in a couple of weeks, and I'm really excited as I've seen a lot of different, really experienced travelers just boast about how good merino wool is. And I have to say, so far, I've really been enjoying it, and I'm excited to dive in a little bit deeper and just share my experiences that I've had with this t-shirt. So, be sure to keep an eye out for that video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already so that you know when that's coming out. And just getting back to the TopEva hanging organizer, I have to say I was really impressed with the system overall. I really enjoyed using it. I think it's a really nice alternative to kind of the headaches that sometimes go along with packing cubes. And if you're not somebody who has a very rigid way of packing already and you're just looking to experiment a little bit, and especially if you're somebody who typically travels with a suitcase, I definitely think this is something worth checking out. And so overall, I definitely enjoyed experimenting with the TopEva hanging organizer. I think this is definitely a really unique way to pack your stuff. And if you're using the right type of bag, I think it can be a really efficient and convenient way to pack and unpack your stuff when you're reaching your destination. The TopEva hanging organizer can be found on Amazon for about $23. It seems like there's a lot of different brands and sizes and configurations of this style of organizer that you can find on Amazon. So there's a wide range of prices that you might be able to find. At $22, I don't think this is an unreasonable price. I think it's a pretty good quality. It feels pretty sturdy all around, and like it's going to be able to hold the items that you might typically carry with you on a week to 2 week trip. And I think it's a really nice alternative to the packing cubes that I've typically used. As I mentioned during the video, there is a lot of benefits to using this system. It's really convenient to kind of lift everything up out of your bag and just be able to hang it and be able to access everything easily. But it also comes with a few different inconveniences. I think it definitely doesn't keep your stuff as tightly held as a packing cube might. And I do wish that they had included some sort of a strap to kind of tighten everything down with the hanging organizer. I also think that it's just a little bit cumbersome overall. I think that everything is kind of loose, and it's very easy for things to shift as you're walking around with this in your backpack. And even though it's very convenient to pack and unpack, I feel like I might not be as efficient with space using this sort of organizer as with the packing cubes that I typically use. So, you're trading a little bit of space for convenience, but it's definitely a nice alternative, especially if you're somebody that travels with like an actual carry-on suitcase as opposed to a backpack like I typically do. I think this will work really well, and it's just really convenient once you get to your hotel room to be able to pull this out and just hang it up and easily be able to grab all your stuff as opposed to putting it in different shelves and things like that. As I mentioned during the video, the only other kind of con that I would call out for this as compared to something like the packing cubes is the fact that it's really difficult to use this if you're not actually hanging it. It just collapses really easily, which is great for packing and unpacking, but it does make it a little bit tricky if you don't have like a good closet to hang this up on, or if you'd like to place this on your dresser or something as opposed to in your closet. It can become a little bit cumbersome to use this. So just a few things to note, but overall, as I mentioned, I really enjoyed kind of experimenting with this. At $23, it definitely wasn't something expensive to just try out and experiment with for a few weeks just to see if it was something that I might like using. So if you're curious, I definitely recommend you just check it out on Amazon. And although I probably won't use this on a regular basis, as I still feel that packing cubes will be a little bit better for the one bag travel that I typically like to do, I will probably be using this a lot when I travel with my carry-on suitcase, as I do think it's a little bit more convenient and it just fits in nicely with the actual suitcase. So I'll definitely just continue to experiment with this with a lot of different bags and just keep kind of mixing and matching maybe with some of my packing cubes to continue to look for different ways to be more efficient. If you guys have any questions about how this look or anything I didn't cover, please go ahead and let me know in the comments below. And as I mentioned during the video, in a few weeks I'll be doing a review for this merino shirt from Oliver's that I'm testing out right now. So be sure to keep an eye out for that if you're curious to hear my thoughts on my first merino wool shirt. And if you guys found this video useful, please go ahead and give us a like below. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And thank you guys so much.